Today on Locked On Rockies. Hey, first win of the year against the Dodgers, and it comes with a bit of some hard-fought nature to it. Let's talk about it.
You are Locked On Rockies, your daily Colorado Rockies podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Rock on Rockies fans, welcome into the Locked On Rockies podcast for today, the 29th day of June in the year 2023. I am your host of the Locked On Rockies podcast, Paul Holden, bringing you your daily Colorado Rockies talk right here on the Locked On Podcast Network, where you can find your team every day. And if your team is the Colorado Rockies, well, guess what? You are in the right spot, because that's what we do around here. It's talk about the Colorado Rockies each and every single day. I'm Paul Holden, and I've been following this team my entire life, been bringing you your daily Colorado Rockies talk for about 3 seasons now. Today's episode is brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Last-minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. Hey, you can find us free and streaming on your favorite streaming service. And you can find us on SiriusXM and the SiriusXM app. Check us out there. I want to thank all of our everydayers out there, and I want to thank you for checking us out here on the Locked On Rockies podcast. Let's talk about the Rockies taking down the Dodgers tonight, the good and the bad of it. Really nice to see, especially after we talked about it yesterday. It's good to see CJ Cron come back and have an immediate impact on this lineup. I think late in the game, you saw that the young guys kind of led the way, especially Nolan Jones on the defensive side, Ezequiel Tovar with one of his at-bats of the year, and Justin Lawrence, who I think is the closer for the Colorado Rockies. I think if you go out and do what Justin Lawrence did last night, get out of the jam that he got out of and finish that ball a game up, well, I think that's the confidence. That's the guy the Rockies need to go to. I think that's the type of performance that gets you that should be recognized as impressive. I mean, Justin Lawrence was facing issues yesterday, facing a challenge at the end of that ball game, and was, trusted to really get in not only one out, but multiple outs. I mean, having to pitch 1 1/3 innings there in total last night, picking up for where Daniel Bard struggled last night and allowed LA to get back into the game with the 2 earned runs late. 3 massive strikeouts for Lawrence. Only the walk, of course, is concerning, and then getting the runners on. But we, again, facing the jam. Facing it against the Dodgers, that's a marquee moment for someone like Justin Lawrence and his development and his status and spot on the Rockies. You should feel, if I'm Justin Lawrence, I'm feeling great about it. And I think even with the struggles we've seen Lawrence have at some point, I still think he is continuing to be one of the most interesting pieces out of the Rockies bullpen. And he's clearly a big member of this team with getting that T-shirt made of him, which I might need to go get. It's about the sweeper, and he's clearly a big part of the fabric of this Rockies team. And having someone like him out of the bullpen is really exciting, especially a moment where the bullpen was able to hold it together. The pitching obviously wasn't the most stellar. I think, of course, you point to Kyle Freeland yet again, just not being as sharp as possible. It's just such the double-edged sword with Kyle. 7 strikeouts, awesome. 5 walks, 4 hits, including a home run, 6 earned runs. Location, man. And I know the umpiring hasn't been necessarily the most stellar in this series so far, including in moments last night for both teams, really. So that's one thing. But, man, it's just been a while since we've been – I need Kyle Freeland. It looked like at times that he was going to be able to lock in for kind of a dominant start. And as we saw with the strikeouts, that's the best part. You can kind of tell. I think, when Kyle Freeland really puts a little extra oomph and a little emphasis on these division matchups. It's just this Freeland just gets bit by the small things. And it happens a ton, whether it be, unlucky sometimes in terms of defense in his career behind him, but it is location. I mean, you can say what you want about umpiring or whatever, but it's still allowing 5 walks in a start yesterday, and that leads to 6 runs. The irony is very thick there with Bud Black wearing the "Walks Will Haunt" shirt in an interview. I don't know if it was before the game or if that was an image from the first game in the series that was then resurfaced on Rockies Twitter yesterday ahead of the ball game. But the Rockies put together a complete ball game against one of the best yesterday, and were able to survive the counterattacks and get production from the entirety of the lineup. Jurickson Profar doesn't get a hit, but gets a massive walk that drives in a run, and has another walk to set up the it's just those type of at bats are the reason why you still have at least some faith in Profar and his abilities. I mean, it's been very up and down for Profar this season, but he is a guy that has shown his ability to get on base. He's drawn 3 walks in this series, and that is more than his hits. He has yet to get a hit in this series, but he has gotten on base 3 times and stole a bag in yesterday's game. So certainly not great, but the veteran presence was there with Grichuk and CJ Cron having impacts, Elias Diaz as well. But I think you can't negate, again, a marquee moment for Ezequiel Tovar, who took one more. Maybe it's not in the grand scheme of things, it's not a huge moment, but for us as Rockies fans and for us watching him and watching him throughout this season, that's a marquee moment for Ezequiel Tovar. And I want to talk about the young guys a little bit more once again here in this one. But before we dive into that, let's talk about some of the folks that help make this show possible, including Gametime. Gametime's got you covered when you need last-minute ticket deals and on great seats, too. You're not going to miss out on getting a great seat just because you're buying them last second, because Gametime has not only great seats, but great last-minute deals. Lowest price guarantees as well. They got the event cancellation protection as well, just in case something does happen. You can find an image of the seat when you book and buy your seat. And when you buy your tickets, they are with you and on you in a matter of seconds. 2 taps and you're set. Tickets are sent directly to your phone, so you never have to dig through your email. Snag the tickets without the stress with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off. Download Gametime today. Last-minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. This is the Locked On Rockies podcast, free and streaming on your favorite streaming service, bringing you your daily Colorado Rockies talk on your favorite streaming services like YouTube. You can be part of the live chat just like the everydayers Lux Ace and I'm just going to call him LND there. There's a number that I think we've seen you before, so welcome back into the chat. But he is that is one way. There's so much you can, and Nicholas Delvo is here as well. I was keep scrolling through, lots of chatter. Happy Rockies fans today on the Locked On Rockies YouTube channel. It feels good to be happy, especially when you're navigating through a very weird kind of week, I think, in Rockies fandom as we kind of process everything and get closer and closer to the trade deadline as this team again looks to the return of the 2 big veterans. We talked about them and we talked about how important their roles are going to be, specifically CJ Cron and Chris Bryant yesterday. If you want to go check out the pod there and before yesterday's game when we highlight how important that these Rockies are. And the Rockies do add a little bit more. It isn't as much as I have been critical, I think, of CJ Cron this year. It is still good to see him in a bat. And it was really great to see his comfort at the dish yesterday. But what I really liked the most about yesterday's game, and we talked a little bit about one of the young guys doing it, Justin Lawrence, coming up big there at the end. But the Rockies in general didn't give up yesterday and kind of showed a little more fight than it seemed. You know, especially after seeing what happened with the big blowout loss. The Rockies have responded this year in certain situations. Maybe not always, and especially not during the downtime losing streaks, but the Rockies do have an ability in certain moments and in certain opportunities, like in yesterday's game, to turn things around at least a little bit and maybe stop a skid or improve a little morale, beef things up, and just kind of show that they're definitely more capable than we think, and certainly a better unit than I think some people might think. I think this is a very close clubhouse. I think this is a team that through its struggles do enjoy being around and playing with each other and things of that of that nature. But it's still there's just still so many questions that I have, I guess, as this goes forward here, and the identity of this team as it's kind of like being pulled in some interesting directions there. But what I really love to see forming is I think the Rockies are really onto something with Nolan Jones and Ezequiel Tovar. As we've talked about, Tovar is coming up massive in big situations, and especially when you can do something like that against the Dodgers, that's awesome. That's exactly what you need to do. And I think, again, we're continuing to see that advanced maturity and confidence in himself. It's really good to see as the season has progressed and as things have gone further and further along this season, that he's taken on the challenges of a struggling Rockies team, a struggling start to the season for himself, and adjusted and gotten better and continued to make it so that he is establishing himself as a leader here. And here's a stat from Manny Randall here, Manny at MLB, from Ezequiel Tovar, about Ezequiel Tovar. Ezequiel Tovar since April 30th, 296, 320, 500 batting line, 15 doubles and 7 homers in 50 games. Legit, man. That stuff is awesome. It's that type of growth that when you're looking for the storylines in players that are exciting for the future of the Rockies, it's this young guy. It really is kind of contrary again to sometimes how the Rockies have operated of late. It's a young prospect that they're giving an opportunity to way early on versus up and down. What are you going to do with this type of guy? It's really great to see the Rockies entrust their guy at shortstop and him being able to step up and be a baseball, be a pro. Tovar is not only showing it on the field, he continues to impress. Ryan McMahon continues to speak highly of him. These guys, on top of Nolan Jones, who really wants to, I think, make it. I think Nolan Jones, you heard some of him talk about this as well. This is the opportunity I feel like he's waited for his life. These are the moments. Throwing that's a big run that he cut out at home yesterday. That's a massive play. And more and more this season, we are referring to the younger guys about their impact on the game and their impact in Rockies wins and losses, and the Rockies being in a position to win ball games. I mean, yesterday for Nolan Jones, gets a hit, 2 walks with the strike. He gets on base 3 of his 4 ABs there with 2 walks, does go down with the strikeout, but does score as well on top of the plus defense. These are the exact type of signs that you do continue to get a little bit more and more excited about. And then it's enhanced because, hey, Randall Grichuk was able to put the ball in play and generate some offense. Hey, CJ Cron's back. That does add some thump into the lineup, and someone who really loves hitting at Coors Field. I think CJ Cron is incredibly comfortable at home, especially. He loves hitting there. And for the Rockies to bounce back yet again is kind of tough. Again, it's hard to say the Rockies have bounced back a ton this season, because there have been so many bad stretches and extended stretches. So that's not necessarily correct. I guess the best way to phrase it is when the Rockies have bounced back, it's shown a little bit more of a life, a little bit more of a pulse, and a little bit more of an energy to the club that isn't on display when this team is going through its tough points. And it's really great to see that in a key moment in the game last night, in two key moments, really three young guys, three guys that signaled the future of the Rockies stepped up. Justin Lawrence got the Rockies out of a jam and himself out of a jam to win the ball game and close it out. Nolan Jones comes up with a big defensive play and is able to get on base a lot in the game against the Dodgers. And Ezequiel Tovar comes up with the biggest hit of the game and clears the bases and puts the Rockies ahead. That's the moments you're looking for, and that's the moments you want to take away from games like this. And because first win against the Dodgers this season, you have a chance to win the series, chance to win back-to-back series now. Even amidst nearly being no hit and the series most historic loss, there's still some good takeaway and good ball that was played and stuff to focus on here. And that's not only thanks to Rockies that we kind of know and expect them to do things like Crone and Grichuk, but from the young guys as we continue to learn more and more about them. And I think it wasn't just Tovar. I really think you can't negate how significant Justin Lawrence out of the bullpen was last night and how he's and how he's come along as well. I think without a doubt, he is the closer for this team. I think Daniel Bard, the issues, I think he's still, I don't know if he's still dealing with it, but he's not the same type of guy anymore. But I think he's perfect for situations in the 7th and 8th because you give your team an opportunity to bounce back a little bit. And I think that cushion behind him is key for someone like Bard right now at this stage of his of where he's at right now until he gets back to that closer mentality, that closer level sharpness. It's really good that the Rockies have someone like Lawrence to come behind him and get out of a jam against a team that has some good offense and good offensive capabilities. What we also saw was the Rockies finally taking advantage of the weaknesses of this Dodgers team. The Rockies were able to get the starter out of the ballgame early. The Rockies were able to go out and attack a weak bullpen and were able to score, crooked numbers, which are massive. Big innings were huge for the Rockies yesterday, especially when they were off to that quick 4-0 start. And then the Dodgers do what they do. Big inning to get right back into the ballgame. That's where it's good to see that this Rockies team was able to respond and able to get something done. Almost everyone getting a hit in yesterday's ball game as well. Profar and Coco Montez held hitless there, but Montez only getting the one at bat, and Profar still did walk twice, and an RBI came from that as well. But Elias Diaz, CJ Crone, and Randall Grichuk, the veteran offensive presence on there, helping out the boys last night as well. Just a couple other stats from last night. Jake Bird goes an inning, 2 hits, walk and a strikeout. Pierce Johnson, a nice clean inning for him with a strikeout there. And then Daniel Bard, 2 hits, 2 earned runs off a walk and a strikeout. Justin Lawrence, an inning and a third, allowing 1 hit, 1 walk, striking out 3. Rockies hang on, win 9-8. And are now looking for the Larry Walker number 33 wins on the year as they close out the series against the Dodgers tonight. Let's talk more Rockies baseball, and let's talk about what's going on in the live chat here on the Locked On Rockies podcast coming up in segment number 3. Folks, this is the Locked On Rockies podcast. We're free and streaming on your favorite streaming service, bringing you your daily Colorado Rockies talk here in the Locked On universe. I was distracted here by our live chat as Luxace wanted to claim the stat from Manny, saying he knew it first. He said it first. Maybe. Who knows? Lux Ace, just one of many everydayers here in the Locked On Rockies live chat where you can post your Rockies hot takes, your questions, your comments, and more. Like Nicholas Delvo, who says, I'm glad the team is stepping it up, but they need to do it more. We need to win more series. Yep, I think the one thing too, as we always kind of have to talk about with our optimism and feel goodness of the Rockies is everything does have to come with a big grain of salt, because we have to remind ourselves of where the realities of the Rockies and what we've seen more often than not this year. If the Rockies really would, May was one thing, and they showed it there. A nice groove for them to really, the best scenario for the Rockies, one of the best scenarios for the Rockies, is to get into a nice winning groove heading into the All-Star break and the trade deadline, so you can really kind of amp up and pump up the value a little bit. Just humor me for a little bit here. If the Rockies overtake the Padres, I mean, just imagine the amount of fire sale type of stuff that could start happening there. I think the Rockies are still going to be realistic, but there's going to be teams that are certainly interested to see what, if the Rockies are beating the Padres, or if Grichuk and Cron produce well, and, some of the arms in the bullpen. The Rockies just have to be willing to pick up that phone, and we will see if that is the case. But yeah, certainly if they want to march back and get closer to 500, they certainly have to go on a lot more stretches. But back-to-back series wins against above 500 teams at home would be great. I mean, it's easier said than done, but the Rockies are in a position to win back-to-back series against the LA teams here at Coors Field. Baseball Pig says possible Profar Grichuk trade with Bryant coming back. I think so. I mean, I certainly think it's possible. I think they should all be. It certainly should be the case of trading them and Cron in there as well. They all seem like they can provide some value. I think the market for Profar is going to be incredibly low. I just don't. He's really not doing a ton that makes him valuable. He does. CJ Cron, you can at least point to and say the dude hit. The guy drives in runs. The guy had, he had 100 ribbies last year. He can hit home runs. The power's certainly there. That's what you can look for in him. But Profar could be an interesting option for someone in the leadoff position, like we talked about. Though he still does have an ability to get on base. As he is very good at taking pitches and drawing walks. That is a big strength for him. So I just don't necessarily know. But hey, if you can trade Mike Moustakas for an interesting high A pitcher, that's fine. That's cool. I'm down with it. So I don't think the Rockies are necessarily going to get some sort of big haul back, unless I feel like it might be nice if they could maybe package things together, get some people closer to major league level. Because the one thing with the Moose trade, high A ball. But hey, he came out and had a great start there in Spokane with Spokane. And who knows? I mean, if it turned that's the type of trade where it's like, oh, all it was we had to trade Mike Moustakas in a lost season when he signed at the beginning of the year as a free agent. Easy. That's kind of a win-win trade for both sides there. The Angels get another power bat and a veteran presence on the corner infield spot that they need. Rockies have someone who's demonstrated some success in the minor league level. So that seems like a win for me here. Luxe says, excited for our future with Zeke. Yes, we are. And Luxace also says Chris Bryant went 1 for 4 last night with the Isotopes. I thought he had 2 singles last night. Did KP not have 2 singles? Still singles, though. That's the biggest takeaway from that. But again, I think it was. I like this. I like the life that the Rockies showed like last night. I like the scrappiness. I think it does show. It shows that these guys are still professionals. These guys still have these, there's a little bit of that intrigue and things, and that's the blueprint to beating the Dodgers this year. They got to rep. Now, the big question for tonight and for throughout every other team going out there, or every other time they play the Dodgers is got to get after that starter, got to get after that bullpen. When you're talking about the bullpen there for the Dodgers yesterday, after the starter gives Grove gave up 4 earned in 5 innings. The Rockies chased Victor Gonzalez for 3 earned runs in a third of an inning. They get Nick Robertson. They tag him for 2 earned runs, get a couple of walks. Walks by almost every, none by Victor Gonzalez, but drawing walks late there for the Rockies are crucial and happen in crucial situations. The Rockies, that bullpen is not nearly as intimidating as it used to be. So if the Rockies want to win again tonight, they certainly are going to have to replicate last night and limit the damage. Chase Anderson on the bump, and we know what happened last time that Chase Anderson was on the bump there for the Colorado Rockies. We shall see how this one turns out for him, as he if you forgot, he was the starter in Saturday's ball game. The last start for Chase Anderson, 2 2 2/3, 10 hits, 9 earned runs, 3 home runs, 2 walks, and just 1 strikeout. So that is your pitching matchup for tonight there. Chase Anderson taking on Emmett Sheehan. I think I'm getting that right. 1-0 for Emmett there. 150 ERA, a whip of 0.58 over 12 innings. 3 hits, 7 strikeouts, 4 walks. Has given up 2 home runs. And going into the dreaded Coors Field. So we'll see if the Rockies can take advantage of a couple of of a guy who might have a little early home run proneness, but certainly still a tall task for the Rockies, as that Dodgers lineup is always going to be a good one. Possible Yency Almani sighting today. Ooh, we'll have to keep an eye on that, I guess. That's interesting. But folks, that is going to do it for today's episode of Locked On Rockies. And a heads up, there will not be an episode of Locked On Rockies tomorrow. I will, as you have seen, I am in the midst of a move, and I will be completing that move and doing more about that tomorrow. So unfortunately can't bring the pod tomorrow, but there's lots to catch up on this week if you haven't checked out the show. And we will be bringing you all of your Rockies talk starting back up again next week there with the new office look and all that good stuff. So thank you so much for making this your first listen of the day. Thank you, Luck Saves Baseball, Pig, Nicholas Delvo, LND, and all of you everydayers out there for making Locked On Rockies your first listen of the day. Thank you for subscribing as well. Your subscription to Locked On Rockies is the easiest and best way to help this show grow. Now that you made us your first listen of the day, go make Locked On Broncos, go make Locked On Avalanche, Locked On Nuggets, and Locked On Buffs your second listen of the day. Folks, until next time, this is Paul Holden saying so long from the Locked On Rockies podcast.